Hello, we are using TradingView to analyze my anchored VWAP Fibonacci channel setup, and today it looks like it fit like a glove. I even did some paper trading. So remember, once again, to do this, let's lock this. You just place an anchored VWAP on the first candle of the day. I'm using the 3-minute chart. So, and then you apply your channels from the top of the first candle to the anchored VWAP at open to the bottom of the first candle, and there you have one trend. And then you do from the bottom of the candle to the anchored VWAP open to the top of the two. And there you have your second trend. So here we have our two channels, and right away we can see in the early hours we got some, there's probably a Fibonacci channel somewhere in here that I do not have marked out. So let's go ahead and mark that out real quick. I keep it simple with the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 because it makes things easier to see, but we can see that the 0.5 Fibonacci channel does come in handy, right? Support, massive news, resist, right? And then it tested it again, false breakout, and then now it's even further lower. So now it's in the bottom channel, right? Now we are in the bottom channel, but whoa, psych, we are now in the top channel again. So this upper line was also used as like a support as well, right? So here we go, we made it to this line and bounced off it into this blue, right? Into this next Fibonacci line. We tried to use it as support, but failed. Now it's resist, right? One more try, resist. I think some people call this a 3-try reversal, and it worked out perfectly to where it reversed. So if you were watching your stochastic meter, you possibly could have profited on this, right? Here we have a cross down, right? If you got in here right before the failure and you held the entire way, you know, here you're right below VWAP, that would have been a great take profit area. Not only that, you're looking at the same line that has support, resistance, resistance, and then broke through it. So this is almost like a break and retest of this support, and look at the reaction on that support line. So a bunch of stuff has happened today in the channel, just right off the bat. Okay? And even on the lower channel, we can see some of these resistance, and then break and retest support, and then resistance again, top wicks, right? We came back, it tried to use it as support, and then it just fell all the way through today. That was a wild move, wasn't it? And we are at an overextension area, right? You're overextended. You might want to think about getting back into the channel. If you were looking at your stochastic meter, when would you have gotten in? Well, it's possible you would have waited for here when we got back into the channel, right? That blue candle right there, or yeah, right here. That is the candle that got back into the channel. That is the cross-up confirmation of the RSI and the stochastic, and then you could ride the wave up, right? Ride the wave up, right? And then where would you take profit? Well, like here it crossed down. There's a bunch of noise right here. Let's see. That would have been a great take profit area, right? And perhaps even the next short, right? Well, we can see the next short would have gotten you stopped out, right? Once again, this green line was support earlier in the day, right? And here we come back and break and retest of a support, and it took off. So this would have definitely got me stopped out if I were taking a position here. We have a cross down, but the RSI didn't quite cross down yet. And then the RSI crossed down here on this candle. So that would have been the fastest stop out in my life, because it never returned. And if you didn't have a stop, that would have been a lot of money lost, right? So you got to pay attention to your plays. They don't just work, right? They don't just work right off the bat. You got to pay attention to your plays, right? Even today's play, in my paper trade, you had to wait for a cross down confirmation, right? You just came out of a cross up, right? A cross up, and it didn't quite cross down till here, right? Here. So this is where I entered to go in, downside, and I believe I took profit on this candle here. I was almost shaking out here. I don't know whether I might have been in on this candle, I can't remember exactly, but I do know that I sold right here. It was all paper trade. Okay, so no. The trade that I would have wished that I did make, because I did notice a drop, and I was just like, man, this looks like a good area to bounce. Why? Because it found support here. This area, you might want to look about looking for a bounce, right? And it just kept going. Well, now you're overextended. So now you're really looking for a bounce. Not only that, if you use the Bollinger Band on the RSI, you're looking for a bounce of some sort. So no, I wouldn't have got in on this candle unless I was ballsy, right? And I just believed in the Fibonacci channel, right? But if you wait for confirmation, that's fine too, because even this move had a pullback, right? So if you just wait for confirmation, a cross up, there it is. And then if you want to wait for more confirmation, you have a cross up on the RSI. That'll get you on that candle. Now this is a 3-minute chart. You have plenty of time to notice a cross up on that candle, right? Maybe even this candle, right? So that even there, that's a decent amount of profit from here to there. And then here you're running into some top wicks. Where is it? Right here. So this support could have turned into a resistance, right? So that would have been where I would have taken profit, and then I would have cried about how far it went for the rest of the day. But I did not do any of that. Okay? I did not do any of that. Why didn't I do any of that? I don't know. Captain Hindsight says it would have been a great idea, but it was a great idea at the time using my newly improved strategy. So let's go over the previous fib channels that were drawn, right? Do they still work? Oh, apparently they do. They still work for today too. So this was the one we noticed the other day of how it started using this downward channel, and now it's working its way across. Well, it's possibly working its way across with another fib channel. Yeah, look at that. So even this channel is still in action with support here, right? Turned into resistance, turned into resistance, turned into resistance, and then here we are back again, potentially support. So this fib channel came from a while back ago, right? This came from Thursday, May 15th, 2025, and it is still being utilized to this day, I would say, all right? So sometimes it pays to keep the previous fib channels on your chart, right? And just take a glance at them. Take a glance at them throughout the day, maybe, Look at this one, see? Not only that, this coincides with the other fib channel, right? So we have a double bounce. We got the red line, right? The red line support and the red line support here lines up with the bottom of this fib channel. So that's almost like a clear sign of a bottom, right? You could interpret it that way. There's many ways to look at the charts, right? So be vigilant, I don't try to just willy-nilly a trade. You could also use levels. All right, you could also use levels. Here we go. If you add your horizontal levels that I created with box chart technology. We have a level. If you like horizontal lines, right? Support, resistance, break retest failure, and break retest bounce, and then consolidation, right? All that good stuff. If you like horizontal lines, I got horizontal lines for you.